Kilan Brown is behind bars and is accused of fatally shooting Kente Williams during a fight. At 3:29 p.m. on Monday the 19th of May, authorities responded to a residence at 304 Bellevue Circle in Jacksonville, Arkansas on reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they entered the premises and found Kente unresponsive in the hallway with a gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators identified Kilan as a suspect, who say he was in a fight with Kente before the shooting. Kilan then ran from the scene but was later found and brought in for questioning. Kilan is charged with capital murder, aggravated residential burglary, aggravated assault, carrying certain prohibited weapons and first-degree criminal mischief. He's been held at the Pulaski County Regional Detention Facility without bond. Fast food worker 23-year-old Elijah Mackey is accused of fatally shooting customer 51-year-old Wesley Robertson during an argument. At around 10:10 p.m. on Wednesday the 21st of May, authorities responded to a Checkers restaurant at 5780 West Orlo Bronson Memorial Highway in Kissimmee, Florida on reports of a shooting. When officers arrived, they found Wesley unresponsive laying on the ground outside the front of the store with a gunshot wound to his chest. Medics rushed him to a hospital, where he was pronounced dead. After speaking to witnesses and reviewing surveillance footage, investigators learned that Wesley was at the front window of the business receiving his food order when he began complaining. He spoke to one of the female staff and asked for extra mayonnaise packets and then requested to speak to the manager several times. While this was happening, Elijah exited the right side of the building and walked to the front of the business and approached Wesley, and the two men started arguing. Wesley made a derogatory statement to Elijah, and Elijah pulled out a small handgun from his waistband and shot Wesley in the chest, and he collapsed to the ground. Elijah then ran away and was found hiding beneath a stairwell in Celebration Suites about 400 feet away, and while being detained, he asked if Wesley was okay. Elijah's charged with first-degree murder and was booked into the Osceola County Jail. On Friday the 23rd of May, Elijah appeared at the Osceola County Court where the judge denied him bond. An 18-year-old man is behind bars for fatally stabbing his 81-year-old roommate. At around 1 p.m. on Sunday the 18th of May, authorities responded to an independent living group home run by ET Home Care at 2226 Bluebird Avenue in Bartow, Florida, on report of an injured person who needed help. When officers arrived, they quickly realized that the person who needed help was already dead, and that he died a violent death. The victim was identified as 81-year-old Patrick Benway, and he had been stabbed at least 113 times. Police estimate that he had been dead for about 12 hours. Authorities said that Patrick was one of 4 residents living there. During the investigation, authorities identified 18-year-old Moses Ojeda, the victim's roommate, as a primary suspect. Moses had only lived in the home for 5 hours after being released from a mental health facility before stabbing the victim. While questioned, Moses told police that he heard voices in his head telling him to kill Patrick. He said he entered Patrick's bedroom while he was asleep in bed and that he stabbed him multiple times. Patrick woke up and asked, "Why do you want to do this to me?" And Moses replied, "I just do," before Patrick succumbed to his injuries. When detectives asked Moses if he regretted the incident, he replied, "I live my life with no regrets," and that he wanted to kill him because he was already dying. He then added that Patrick was a good guy, and he just had to do what he had to do. There were no disputes prior to the stabbing. When detectives asked Moses why he stabbed Patrick so many times, he said that the knife wasn't very sharp. Authorities said that Moses' mother had dropped her son off at the care facility on the night of Saturday the 17th of May and told employees to hide their knives. Staffers concealed them, but Moses found them anyway. Following the stabbing, Moses reportedly cleaned himself up in the knife and replaced the weapon in the butcher block where it was originally out of sight. He then removed his blood-soaked clothes and placed them in a laundry basket and closed Patrick's door and turned off the light. People at the home group later became concerned when Patrick failed to show up for lunch the following day. Moses was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and tampering with physical evidence. He remains held at the Polk County Jail. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said that Moses has no prior criminal record, but a history of mental health issues and bouts of rage. He said it's a no-brainer that the defense is going to be that of insanity, but I'm telling you he had clear criminal intent. He acted with malice, with forethought, and he went through the effort to hide the weapon. 43-year-old Kelly Agar Garcia is behind bars for fatally shooting his 26-year-old stepson Azareel Martinez during a dispute. At around 7:10 p.m. on Wednesday the 21st of May, authorities responded to a residence at 1328 Citrus Landing Boulevard in Davenport, Florida following reports of a shooting. Investigators determined that the incident began with a disagreement over a video game. Police learnt that shortly before 7 p.m, Kilan and his wife 48-year-old Adrienne Darza were at home with Adrienne's two minor children, 9 and 11, and her adult son 26-year-old Azareel Martinez. Adrienne is the biological mother of all three, while Kelly is their stepfather. Authorities said that Adrienne discovered a 9-year-old playing Fortnite, a game his parents had forbidden him from playing in Azareel's upstairs bedroom. When Adrienne attempted to discipline the boy by taking away his cell phone, the 9-year-old became upset. As Adrienne and her son walked into her bedroom, the 9-year-old retrieved a Smith & Wesson 9mm handgun from a nightstand drawer. Kelly and Adrienne struggled with the child for control of the weapon, with Kelly eventually gaining possession of the gun. At that point, Azareel entered the bedroom and saw the 9-year-old in an agitated state, and a verbal altercation between Azareel and Kelly began. During this confrontation, Kelly shot Azareel several times in the chest and stomach. Azareel retreated from the bedroom, with Kelly following him. He then shot Azareel twice more on the back before he collapsed to the ground. Azareel was transported to a local hospital, where he later died from his injuries. Kelly was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and unlawful storage of a firearm, accessible to a minor. He's currently being held in the Polk County Jail. Police Chief Steve Parker said that Azareel was unhappy with his mother's relationship with Kelly and become more outspoken over the last couple of weeks, leading to arguments. Steve described Kelly as a disciplinarian and that Azareel did not like the way he disciplined the two young children. He also mentioned that police had been to the home before in 2022 after a referral from the Florida Department of Children and Families, but said they could not comment further on the prior visit. 26-year-old Llovana Torres is behind bars for beating and stabbing a 7-year-old son. The incident occurred at around 7 a.m. on the morning of Saturday the 17th of May at an apartment at 1729 West Toohey Avenue in the Rogers Park neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. Authorities said that Llovana became upset after waking up and finding her son had caused a mess in the home after she spent the previous night cleaning. Llovana approached her son and struck him multiple times before he fled into the kitchen and hid in a cabinet under the sink. After she failed to pull him out of this area, she grabbed a silver knife and stabbed the boy repeatedly until she heard him yell, "Ouch!" After noticing her son bleeding, Llovana grabbed him and raced downstairs to her mother's apartment in the same building. When the child's grandmother saw the boy had stab wounds to his abdomen and left leg, she demanded Llovana take him to the hospital immediately. Llovana obliged and rushed him to the Evanston Hospital. Once hospitalized, the boy had to be airlifted to Lurie Children's Hospital, where he underwent emergency surgery for a ruptured diaphragm. The boy remains hospitalized on a ventilator and chest tube. He's listed in a fair condition and is expected to survive. Medical staff notified police about the boy's injuries, and at around 9:50 a.m. that morning Llovana was arrested. Detectives spoke with Llovana's mother and 11-year-old cousin. The cousin told police that he heard Llovana tell her mother that she threatened to cut or stab the boy if he didn't come out of the cabinet. After police arrested Llovana, the cousin said he heard Llovana tell her mother not to tell anyone what happened and to tell a different story. During an interview with detectives, Llovana said she'd been waving the knife around while trying to find her son in the cabinet and accidentally stabbed him. She identified the knife she used and police later recovered it. Llovana is charged with aggravated battery of a victim under the age of 13 and she was booked into the Cook County Jail. She appeared in the Cook County Court on the 19th of May, where the judge ordered her held without bond pending her trial. She's due back in court for a hearing on the 13th of June. Authorities said that Llovana has a history of violent behaviour. In 2017, she punched her mother in the face because she would not give her any money, and she did the same thing to her sister in 2019. The investigation into the matter continues. 28-year-old Selena Doxzon has been arrested after a 1-year-old son drowned while being left unattended in a bath. On the morning of Thursday the 15th of May, medics responded to a duplex residence at 5321 North 53rd Street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, after Selena called 911 to report her son was unresponsive. When paramedics arrived, they took over CPR duties from the mother and transported the baby to Children's Hospital in Wisconsin, where he was pronounced dead at 9:45 a.m. While questioned, Selena told police that her 1- and 3-year-old sons woke up between 5:30 a.m. and 6 a.m. that morning. She fed them before running a bath. She said she placed her sons in the tub with the water level just above the height of the 1-year-old's belly when he was in a seated position. After washing the kids, Selena said she decided to let the boys play in the bathtub, leaving them in the bathroom and going into the kitchen to make pancakes and sausage, which normally takes about 2 to 3 minutes. When the food was done cooking, she said she began washing the dishes. She said she was in the kitchen for about 4 minutes when a 3-year-old son walked into the kitchen soaking wet. She said that she then went into the bathroom to get a towel and that the 1-year-old was still playing in the bath water. She dried a 3-year-old off in the hallway outside the bathroom and went back to the kitchen before going back to get the 1-year-old out of the tub. That's when she found her son's body floating face up in the water, unresponsive with his lips blue. She immediately pulled him out of the water and started screaming for help. She tried patting him on the back, but he remained unresponsive. A neighbour responded to Selena's cries for help and assisted her until medics arrived. She said that she then placed her son on the bathroom floor and attempted CPR. As she gave chest compressions, water came out of his mouth. An autopsy determined that the child's death was asphyxia due to drowning. Selena said she typically bathes her children separately and only recently started bathing the younger child in the bathtub instead of the sink. She said that he was not able to walk on his own, but could stand up and cruise when holding onto things around the home. Authorities said that Selena admitted that she should have had far less water in the bathtub for her child's safety. She also confirmed that she was unable to see the bathroom from the kitchen where she was preparing food. Selena is charged with neglect of a child causing death. On Tuesday the 20th of May, she appeared in the Milwaukee County Court where the judge set her bond at $10,000. She's due back in court for a preliminary hearing on the 30th of May. A 26-year-old man is behind bars for fatally shooting his 25-year-old girlfriend. At around 12:25 a.m. on Sunday the 18th of May, authorities responded to the 200 block of Moorhead Avenue in West Conshohocken, Pennsylvania and reports of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found a woman laying face down on the sidewalk with multiple gunshot wounds to her torso. She was transported to a local hospital, where she was pronounced dead. The victim was identified as 25-year-old Alyssa Rose Wiest, and her death was ruled a homicide. Detectives found that the door to Alyssa's residence, a few doors from where she was found, was ajar, and there was blood found inside the home and along the sidewalk leading to her body. Police also recovered 5 projectiles, located both inside the residence and outside next to her body. Police determined that Alyssa was struck by gunshots which started in her home. She managed to run away and make it out the front door, and then halfway down the block before being fatally struck. Authorities discovered that Alyssa had been in a relationship with 26-year-old Michael Dutkiewicz for the last 2 years. A neighbour reported seeing Michael standing by a silver Ford F-150 truck immediately after the shooting, and then seen leaving the area. Authorities located data from multiple license plate readers, which identified Michael's truck driving through the area almost immediately after Alyssa's death. A warrant was issued for Michael's arrest, and less than 12 hours later he turned himself in to police. Michael's charged with first-degree murder, third-degree murder and possessing an instrument of crime. He's held at the Montgomery County Jail with bond denied. A preliminary hearing is scheduled for the 27th of May. The motive of the killing is unclear, as the investigation into the matter continues. 24-year-old Nichalas San Souci is accused of assaulting an 8-year-old girl at an Italian restaurant. The incident occurred on the evening of the 25th of April at Saggio's at 107 Cornell Drive in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The girl was looking at a waterfall inside the restaurant when Nichalas hit her over the head with a beer bottle, then sliced her chin and throat with a broken bottle. She was seriously injured and required 19 stitches. Police said that the victim and Nichalas did not know each other prior to the incident, and it was an unprovoked attack. The victim's father, Britton Rose, told police that he found his daughter soaking wet in the restaurant when she explained to him that someone had come up from behind and broke a beer bottle over her head. Britton said that the restaurant was crowded and that there was a long line when he and his family arrived, so they knew it was going to be a while before they were seated at a table. As they waited to be seated to order a pizza, he said his wife and daughter went to walk around and look at the murals and other decorations inside. He then heard a loud pop and his wife from across the restaurant yelling, "No, no, stop," and then he realised something was going on with his family. Britton then stepped in to help when Nichalas pulled out a pocket knife after the two got into an altercation. Witnesses, including an off-duty paramedic and intensive care unit nurse, rushed to the girl's aid. The pair applied pressure and kept the child calm until emergency responders arrived. Britton said his daughter is expected to be okay and is extremely lucky as her major arteries were missed. Following Nichalas's arrest, he told investigators that he attacked the 8-year-old girl because she got in his way. On Monday the 19th of May, Nichalas was indicted by a grand jury in Bernalillo County on charges of abuse resulting in great bodily harm, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He entered a plea of not guilty. He remains held at the Bernalillo County Jail without bond. If convicted of the charges, Nichalas faces up to 25 years behind bars. 57-year-old Celestine Ward is behind bars after she stabbed her daughter-in-law during an altercation. At around 3:40 p.m. on Wednesday the 21st of May, authorities responded to a residence in the 700 block of Southwest 4th Avenue in Homestead, Florida on reports of a stabbing. When an officer knocked on the door, Celestine answered. Just past her, an officer could see a woman sitting in a pool of blood on the living room floor, leaning against a cot bed. She was airlifted to Jackson South Medical Center in a critical condition. Detectives interviewed a girl at the home who said the whole thing started with her own parents arguing until her father left the home. Once he was gone, her mother and grandmother began to argue, when the argument turned physical. The girl told investigators that grandma started to kill mummy with a knife, and the knife is in the room under the bed. Authorities were able to speak to the injured victim, who's not been named at the hospital. She said that she and her mother-in-law were drinking alcoholic beverages at Chili's Grill and Bar in Homestead earlier that day. Later on, when the argument began, the daughter-in-law could not recall what the fight was about, but did remember Celestine charging toward her twice, the second time with a knife and stabbing her multiple times. Celestine told investigators that the fight and stabbing were self-defense, claiming the daughter-in-law attacked and punched her several times in the face, but officers did not see any visible injuries on her. Celestine was arrested and charged with attempted murder and is held at the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center without bond. A 53-year-old woman is accused of fatally shooting her 60-year-old ex-husband. On Friday the 16th of May, authorities responded to Frederick Vansant Jr.'s residence along Dinger Court in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on report of a suspicious vehicle parked outside. When officers arrived to complete a welfare check on Frederick, they saw a white Honda truck parked outside but no lights on inside the home. When police knocked on the door, it was answered by a woman covered in blood, later identified as Joyanna Vansant. She appeared flustered and then excitedly told officers that Frederick was at the back of the home. Officers noted a large blood trail through the house and called Joyanna outside while they went inside to search the property. Police followed the blood trail to the back of the premises, where they found Frederick's body inside a locked porch closet with a gunshot wound to the head. Joyanna was arrested and charged with murder and possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and she remains held at the J. Reuben Long Detention Center with bond denied. Authorities said that the former couple divorced in 2021, and Joyanna retained a residence nearby. If convicted of the charges, Joyanna faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. The investigation into the matter continues. A 72-year-old man is behind bars for shooting at door-to-door salesmen as they left his property. On the afternoon of Monday the 19th of May, two salesmen were selling solar panel packages when they knocked on a door of a residence at 13379 Boabadilla Lane in Port Charlotte, Florida, and were met by a woman who was upset that they were there and told them to leave. As they began to leave the property, they suddenly heard multiple gunshots and turned to see a man, later identified as William Mark Williams, pointing a gun in their direction. He fired several more shots at them as they ran to a neighbour's home and pounded on the door. The neighbour sent the men in the backyard as she called 911. Deputies arrived at the scene and detained William, identified as the shooter by the victims. The neighbour said she also heard gunshots just before the two men banged on her door. Authorities obtained a search warrant for Williams' residence, where detectives located multiple firearms and ammunition inside. Additionally, detectives found one spent and one unspent casing outside. William declined to speak with detectives, asking instead for an attorney. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and discharging a firearm in public. He remains held at the Charlotte County Jail without bond. 27-year-old Bethany Stocking is behind bars after her 6-year-old daughter drowned. At just before 6 p.m. on Monday the 19th of May, Authorities responded to Toledo Bend Reservoir in Manny, Louisiana, after receiving a 911 call reporting a child had just been pulled from the lake. The investigation revealed that the 6-year-old special needs girl was left unattended, and she walked a very short distance from the house on Dogwood Drive to the lake. The mother pulled the child from the lake and began doing CPR. The child was unable to be revived and was later pronounced dead at Sabine Medical Center. Later that night, Bethany was arrested and charged with 1 count of felony cruelty to juveniles. She is held at the Sabine Parish Women's Jail and no bond has been set at this stage. Bethany was on probation from an arrest in 2023 after she pled guilty to cruelty to juveniles and driving under the influence with child endangerment. The case remains under investigation.